Good.
Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast. Mike.
Yep, I can't see you. I was supposed to be able to see you today, but unfortunately we're doing this audio today, which is better than not doing it at all, and we're happy to do it. And I'm impressed with your professionalism. Besides that, because I know how torn up you are today over the departure of Reese Watson, heads groundsman.
I know.
How were you able to pull yourself together to do a podcast?
I just don't know how I'm going to continue being an Arsenal supporter. Basically, I'm just following the trend of everyone else on Twitter that overreacts when anyone leaves our club. I loved the tweets last week or 2 weeks ago when Sven was leaving. Everyone was like, "This is it for me. I'm no longer a supporter." I'm like, okay, I cried when Thierry Henry left. That's when you get upset.
I don't know, Reese Watson, man. That grass is good. So I mean this literally. I don't mean to make light of anything by saying this, but if this has not been the most bipolar season I can remember for Arsenal, then I don't know what it is. I mean, 1 week we're on a super high last week after beating Chelsea. The next week we're getting scored on and outclassed by Humber and all of his mates in our own house. So
yes,
it's been a weird one. Speaking of being outclassed, Andy, you and I are joined by somebody this week who outclasses both of us combined in every single way, shape, and form.
Which is hard to do, Mike.
It is hard, but not when we have a guy like Super Kevin Campbell on the podcast. So it's nice to have you back, Kevin.
Yes.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Andy. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for joining us again.
We're doing better now, but
you're welcome.
It's been about a year or so since your duck-breaking visit to our podcast, and since then I've actually gotten a chance to spend some time with you on a few occasions, which has been an absolute pleasure. Andy, how many times have you hung out with Kev?
Just the time you guys FaceTimed me. That's it.
Kevin said we're going to keep it that way, right? When he comes over.
No, Andy's good. He's a good guy.
Thanks, Kev. Thanks.
My personal favorite was the one in Liverpool because of how unexpected it was.
Well, it was a triple take when I saw you, Mike.
I'll never forget that look on your face. You got to tell the story. You got the least people you probably expect to have seen while you were pulling Everton duty in Liverpool was me and my friend Tom. But we came up for the day. We wanted to see Goodison Park. Everton against Crystal Palace, I think, that day, and
it was in the fan zone, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're just grabbing a beer, we're outside the stadium, and hey, there's a place to grab a beer and a hamburger, and we're there, and all of a sudden I hear over the microphone, and everybody give a big hand to your own Kevin Campbell. I look up and I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's Kev. So I go, Tom, watch this. I'm like Johnny Big Balls to my friend Tom. I'm like, watch what happens. And so
hold on. So let me take it from here. So
okay,
I come onto the stage and they're going to ask me questions. And I look into the crowd, the crowd are clapping and I just look a little bit to my left. I see you and then I look away. I see you. I had to look 3 times, Mike. I couldn't believe it.
Well, normally people have to look 3 times to actually capture my entire face. Because you can't get it all in one look.
It was just a shock of seeing you. But the big smile after that gave it away, didn't it?
Oh, it was funny. I could tell that it took you about 5 seconds to get back on track with your Everton professionalism, but consummate pro, you were able to do it. But it was just funny because I frankly didn't know if you'd recognize me or not, so it was funny to see that reaction. And then after the game in the pub, you would not believe the adulation, the deserved adulation that this man gets. I mean, I took so many pictures of him with fans that, I should have charged for my services and paid for that whole trip. But boy, do they love you up there.
Yeah, I got a very good rapport with the Evertonians, and as you saw in the pub after, it's a great place to be, and they've just got so much passion for the football club and for myself. It's fantastic.
I certainly enjoyed it. It was 24 brief hours in Liverpool, and then we had to come back for the Leicester game, which was worth coming back for. But it was fun. I like to see you in that environment. It was good. I'd rather see you in that environment in London. But speaking of paying for trips, when are we getting you down to Gooner, Kev? If you want to get that Everton adulation in an Arsenal environment, New Orleans in February is for you.
Listen, I've got a little problem going over to the States at the moment. So
Okay. Well,
yeah,
I'll hide
uh,
you there.
it's solely because of the humanitarian work I do, which was in
That's
Iraq.
right. Yeah, I do keep forgetting that.
Mm.
Yeah, so
I will.
it's
No one listens to this anyway, so I will smuggle you in. And
no, it's actually Mike. I'll be honest with you, and Andy. It's actually something that all I need to go down to the embassy, you see, to get it sorted out. So it's just a matter of time. Once I could get time to go down, and I could go and get it sorted out.
well, Gooner 7 should be sometime in late January, early February next year, and we'll get it sorted by then because you'll have a great time. The next one is coming up in just a few weeks. I'm looking forward to it. Um, what I'm not looking forward to is talking about the game that just happened on Friday. But Andy, we kind of have to, right?
Yeah, we do, and I don't know where to start, Mike. How about we start with Socrates going down and then Koscielny going down? It's just so unlucky. I thought we started the match so positively and so strong until Socrates went down, and I don't know if it just ruined the momentum of the match for us or if United just took a while to kind of break us down. But I mean, just so unlucky.
It's ridiculous. It's like a competition between us and Spurs right now to see who can get more impactful injuries and suffer from them. I tweeted after the game that if Emery was smarter, he would have just started Xhaka and Mustafi as a back two, do like a 2-5-3 formation, and just spared us all the injuries so that we could do better in the future. And I think some people actually thought I was being serious. But Kevin, if there was one person in our starting lineup, maybe other than Lucas Torreira, that we really couldn't afford to lose for the next month or two, is there anyone more than Socrates right now that we needed to keep healthy?
No. Um, when you really look at how he's been performing, and it's sometimes when you take him out of there that you actually see the real problems. You could see that he's a bit of a leader back there now, and I thought he was marshalling the back four pretty well. He has that talisman figure now at the back for Arsenal, and he seemed to be forming quite a good partnership with Koscielny. We weren't even in any trouble until he
Yeah.
went down,
Mm-hmm.
and then as soon as he went down, you started to see the cracks, and United just exploited us. And they've been doing their homework and trying to catch us on the break and stuff. But I thought we started the game pretty well, and we looked to be in the ascendancy. But it's just like anything. As soon as you're on top, you have to get your noses in front. You have to score. But we just couldn't get that goal, and they seem to come into their own really and catch us on the counter attack and really really hurt us. And the goals were avoidable, but we know what our Achilles heel is. Our Achilles heel is defense.
Well, and Kev, it's interesting you say that because Solskjaer, after the match, came out and said, we've been practicing counterattacking football all week. So clearly, they've seen us over the last couple months get just torn apart by counterattacking football. And,
Like 80% of the goals that we give up, I feel like.
yeah. And so, Kev, I assume they're working on this in practice, but do you think that the players just aren't good enough to comprehend how to defend counterattacking football, or why do you think we keep losing or keep conceding so many goals because of the counterattacking football?
Me personally, I think you could do as much as you want in training, because a lot of the time it's false, because the opposition have different players with different mindset.
Mm.
Now, with the likes of Paul Pogba and Sanchez coming back and scoring against us, and Lingard and all these guys, Manchester United calls and asks different questions of your back line, and you can practice it as much as you like, but when it comes to a game, you have to be on it. You have to be on point, and you have to understand what's going on. And I just thought, losing Socrates, we lost a bit of impetus at the back, and we lost a bit of know-how. And at one stage, when Lukaku went out to their right hand side, our left, when Kolasinac was up the pitch, and they broke on us. It was 3-2. I think that was for the second goal, especially. So we're not seeming to be learning from our mistakes. And if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to get punished. And we keep getting punished in the same way.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, Mike, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but
by the way, on that note, I think the continuity and the lack of continuity. I mean, you could practice counterattacking and how to defend it. Kevin's right about. I mean, he's obviously right about preparing for specific players being a little bit more difficult than general. But if you're next to the different person every single week, and you're in a 3 or you're in a 4, I mean, how hard is that going to be to come up with that in the game and know exactly where you're supposed to be and who you're relying on? It's just a different back 4, a different back 3, a different back 5, different spacing every single week. So, I don't really know how you can avoid that.
No, and credit to Solskjaer for being, up and winning the match and then bringing on Martial and Rashford. And completely acknowledging the fact that we could do nothing. So he says, instead of holding this, we're just going to attack. We're going to bring on speed, and we're going to just continue to go for their throats. And it's unfortunate because I think Socrates and Koscielny are senior enough where even if they don't have that partnership together quite yet, they at least know on the pitch where each other's are. They know how to command and dictate. And unfortunately, when you throw a central midfielder in that mix, you don't have that anymore, and it's tough, man. It's really tough. But Mike, up top, I wanted to quickly talk to you and Kev about the Aubameyang Lacazette. I mean, we just could not get them going. And Kev, you've scored just a handful more goals than Mike when it comes to Arsenal, so I'm going to go to you on this. What is your take? What is your take on getting those two players in the mix together? I felt like they were trying to find each other a little bit too forcefully instead of taking shots on goal. Did I misread it? Like, what are your thoughts on how we can get those two firing? All cylinders.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough creativity around them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. There needs to be a cuteness, because one thing we do know, both of them could score goals and both of them will score goals. But the supporting cast is a bit bitty. Ramsey plays and then he doesn't play. I know Ramsey's going, but there's times when he plays and then he's out the team. There's times when Iwobi's in and he's out the team. And, Mesut Ozil is nowhere to be seen, and then he comes on in the second half. Where is as a striker, you want to know that there's a constant supply, and you want to know who is going to supply you so you could build a rapport with them. Arsenal just seem to be chopping and changing players, and players are moving out of position, etc. I don't understand how they're going to try and get a bit of cohesion with each other and with the current players if they don't constantly play with each other. So I think it's very difficult for Aubameyang and Lacazette. It's great that Aubameyang scored, but I think we're missing a trick here. I really believe we're missing a trick in utilizing these two killer strikers.
I was looking forward to seeing how Emery would, for lack of a better word, tinker a little bit and move around and see what works and use this year as an experimental vehicle. But I don't think a person who was looking forward to that challenge could have expected it to be this much, because you're absolutely right. I mean, use the first half of the season. I was saying at the beginning of the season, give us 10 games until the players bed in a little bit, till Emery's system starts to take over, and then we'll see what we got. And of course, we lost the first 2, and then just started a ridiculously long undefeated streak.
Undefeated run, yeah.
But I just didn't, I guess, envision 6 months in still seeming to have no plan. And I'm not jumping on the Emery has no plan bandwagon, but it is remarkable. The lack of continuity, I do think, is hurting us, like you said.
Mike, can I just add to that, please? Because I think it's really important to understand. Emery's hands are tied, and obviously, when he realizes how badly his hands were tied, normally this stuff wouldn't come out. But he came out and said, he can't sign players He can only get players on loan. And I'm not sure whether we're gonna deal with this later on in the pod.
We certainly will.
But he's working with one hand behind his back, so he's had to inherit the squad from before that wasn't good enough. Yeah, they will win some games, but against the big boys, we always used to come unstuck most of the time. And he's brought a couple of players in, which he had to do on a budget. And now we're starting to see the fruits leave. We've had Sanchez. Sanchez had to go. Ramsey had a contract. Ramsey's contract, he's out. He's signed a pre-contract at Juventus. Ramsey had a fantastic game against Chelsea, didn't he? Played excellently. It proved that he could do a job. But I think there has to be a brutal change, and we're right up to the limit on the financial fair play wages. So that's why they can only sign loan players. Even if Stan Kroenke put 500 million in, we couldn't sign anybody because
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. I'm fighting that battle every single day on Twitter about that, and we will talk about that. I actually have a piece to say on that.
I don't want to delve too deep into all that. Then.
Well, so let me ask this, Mike, and I'll go to Kev first, and then you can add your 2 cents in. So we talk about lack of creativity, and we'll get to the Iwobi substitution because he seems to be our most creative player outside of Ramsey in midfield going forward. But if Mesut Ozil was free right now in the January window and wasn't an Arsenal player, we would all be wanting to sign Mesut Ozil. So, Kev, why aren't we able to embed him into the squad? Because when he is on the day, the Mesut Ozil we all expect, he's one of the greatest creative midfielders in the world. So what's, like, from your perspective, like, why can't we get him embedded into this squad? Is it the lack of tracking back? I mean, what is it? Like, why can't we do that?
No, Andy, look, everybody has to work, right? But what I don't want to do is put that burden solely on Mesut Ozil.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I will say to you. Mesut Ozil, on his day, you are right. When he's flying, he's as good a creator as anybody in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But those days are few and far between. He doesn't have them days. If there's 10 games, Mesut Ozil will be top 1 or 2 games. Top 1 or 2 games. Maybe 6 games he'll be fine. And the others, he won't turn up.
We saw it against Leicester. We saw it against Huddersfield. But
yeah, as a top player, that is not good enough. We need Mesut Ozil at 6 games top.
Yep.
2 games fine. 2 games not so good. We could accept that. But in those 6 games, at least that shows is consistent. And it's 4 years now he's been at the club. And we're still having this conversation. So that just tells you that, unfortunately, the consistency is not there with Mesut Ozil. I love seeing Mesut Ozil playing really well. I really do. But I just think Unai Emery doesn't have the time on his hands or on his mind to say, look, I'm gonna bear with Mesut Ozil, because he's seeing that what the team needs, and the team needs work. It needs a bit of work, and we can't carry, as a team, we can't carry anybody, unfortunately. So that's why I think there's times where Mesut Ozil's been left out, and it is frustrating, I'm sure, for him as for some of the fans. But Unai Emery, he's been in the job 6 months, just over 6 months, and he's got to make it work. He hasn't got the time. So he has to make tough decisions in order to get this team moving forward. And, I reckon it's going to get even more brutal come the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of rumors flying around that this Perisic deal might only go through if he goes the other way, and who knows. But it's tough, and like you said, I think that 10-game example is perfect. 60% or more of those matches he needs to be on it, Mike, and he's not.
And he won't, and he won't trust him to start a game that he's clearly healthy enough to start, that probably calls out for his creativity. Emery doesn't trust him enough to have one of those, 60% games, or in his case, 20% games, to even give it a try, which tells you everything you need to know. And while that might bother people, there are 11 players on the pitch, and there's one coach tasked with turning this team around. For the time being, in his first 6 to 12 months, not his 21st and 22nd year, I will back the one person who's trying to turn around the team, not one of the 11 people that are put out there that can impact a game. So, again, I've not slated Ozil's playing. I've said very little about him as a player. My comments on Ozil are always about the Ozil drama, the brand, the instability, the impact, the cloud that it has over this team. And for me, the sooner that we're rid of that cloud, the better, because I don't see the cloud just dissipating. It's going to either get worse or go away.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about work rate and effort, because I want to go to the third goal. Obviously they're counterattacking, and when you watch it back, you see Guendouzi and Ozil pretty much at a canter, and Ramsey's on his horse, just everything he's got to try and track back. I mean,
I think he was trying to run to Turin, actually. He was trying to get there as soon as possible.
You've got two guys who are on long-term contracts with the club and a guy who's leaving at the end of the season. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. How do you explain Ramsey giving more effort than the two guys? I mean, it's just absolutely atrocious.
I mean, he's proven me wrong so far, Ramsey. I mean, so far on whether he belongs on the pitch right now. I mean, he does. He's putting in a shift every single time that he's put out there. It goes against everything I've always said about players who are, whose mind should be elsewhere, who are committed elsewhere. But at this point, he belongs on the pitch, which is a problem, because we should have guys that belong on the pitch more than somebody who signed a pre-contract. I mean, right, Cal? I mean, I feel conflicted now when I see him in there. At the beginning of the season, before the contract thing was resolved, I said freeze him out in the U23s until a decision is made one way or the other, which was a bit harsh. It was meant to be. But, I would never vote to play a player in an important position who isn't going to be an Arsenal player, and say what you want about who might be to blame. I have my own theories. They don't always agree with others. But I would never put a guy out on the pitch who signed a pre-contract for another team. But he's proving that he belongs on there for the time being.
Yeah, look, he's contracted to Arsenal until the end of the season, and Ramsey I reckon he's been so professional in his attitude, because he has put his foot in. He has worked so hard. He has put his neck on the line for the cause. He has done all of the things that we sometimes maybe would have questioned. But I'd like to look at Guendouzi and Ozil coming on, and Manchester United are on a break, and they're just jogging back.
Yeah.
To me, that is criminal. And to me, that is what is wrong with Arsenal. There is no way, when you're still in the game at 2-1.
And they're both subs with fresh legs.
Exactly. That's my point. In case you bring them on for fresh legs, and then Paul Pogba is breaking past them, and they're strolling back. No, that's unacceptable for me. That it really is unacceptable. And anybody who could watch that goal back, just watch Guendouzi. They're just strolling back. That's not on.
Hey, Kev, if you were playing in a match with Tony Adams and David Seaman and they saw you running back at that pace, do you think you're going to get a smile from them? I mean, how much would they have ripped your,
Listen, let me tell you, it wouldn't just be those two. It would be the whole back four who would be screaming at you to get back, because they know, look, the mentality was different. It was, we knew our jobs. As soon as we lost the ball, we knew the job.
Mm.
But the issue is, I mean, you would have got, if you didn't do it, you would have got a volley from Tony Adams, you would have got a volley from Dave Seaman, Boldy, Nigel Winterburn, and Lee Dixon. And anybody else who was around, the strikers would have been having a go if you were in the midfield, because you've got to protect your castle. You've got to protect your goal when you lose the ball. But
and I just wonder, is there do we have that voice on this team, on this squad? Because I've never seen it out of Koscielny, and I know he wasn't on the pitch
went off
at the
injured
time.
in the first half.
No, but I'm just going to say, like...
No, I mean, the voice on the team went off. I'm not talking about Koscielny. I'm talking
Yeah,
about...
but I'm just saying, like, do we have that voice? Because Koscielny in the past, who were our captain's armband, I've never seen him do that. You know, there's been mistakes that have led to goals going in when he's on the field, and he never turns around and rips someone a new ass. That's what you want from a defender, or like Kev said, anyone on the pitch, but specifically your captain, and especially someone in, like, me as a keeper, Mike. If you made a mistake in front of me and it led to a goal going in, I was all over you, because you know that's the one thing that I wanted to stop from going in was a goal, and I'm sure Kev did the same when he was wide open in the 18 and a pass never came to his feet when he could have scored a goal. I'm sure he told whoever, "Hey, next time, fucking find me," right?
Yeah,
and so,
you have to.
Why don't you have that on this team? It just baffles me.
Guys, I'm going to make a statement here, and you're going to understand when I say it. Arsenal are too nice. We are too, and I hate saying it. We are too nice a team. We got no devilment about us. The only player who's got a bit of devil in him is Torreira. That's why he's already a fan's favourite. But we need that. We need that all over the pitch.
Ironically,
Lacazette's got a bit as well. By the way,
we've seen it in a couple games. We've seen it out of Hector Bellerin, which I credit Lichtsteiner for. I have no reason to credit him for that, other than the fact that I just imagine them in the dressing room just kicking each other in the shins to make them tough. We've seen it out of Kolasinac. I mean, there are some games where I was like, wow, that is reminiscent of when we had a spine and a spine.
But I think
those guys are all getting hurt, and it's few and far between though.
I think it's different though, Mike, when you will stand up to a player in defense of, like, so for example, if we get a foul or someone gets cheap shotted, Jock is the first person over there in that person's face. That's different than when something happens on the pitch and you want to turn to your teammate and go, "What did you just do? Why did you?" You know what I mean?
Self-policing is different than the Jack Wilshere handbags type.
Yep.
Yeah, and also, guys, what I mean that we're not tough enough. I'm talking about doing the dirty work. The dirty work is when you do lose the ball and then somebody's breaking on you. You've got to then do the hard yards to get back into position to stop them. That is the devilment I want to see. Fair enough, standing up for yourself is one thing, but I want to see some devilment, getting in position and protecting that back four, protecting your goal, making some tackles, to get the crowd up. That's what it takes. And it just seems that Arsenal, I've said it for how many years now? We lack it. We don't have it. You see the difference Torreira can make at times, but there's not enough of them. There ain't enough. And until you have that, unfortunately, we're going nowhere.
Yeah, and I mean that's why you see some teams in the lower level, lower parts of the Premier League be able to get results against top teams. It isn't because the talent level is there. It's because the toughness, the dirty work. It's all the things you're talking about. They excel in those areas, so it's an equalizer between the talent. So I'm thinking of a team that someone plays for that isn't quite in the Premier League anymore, but they used to even things up quite a bit. Just by their style of play and their workmanship, and not necessarily by their skill. So, so we put the game behind us. It's another cup competition that we're out of, which leaves us in all the same cup competition, well, domestically anyway, as Tottenham. But we're not going to worry about them. Rumors abound. In the transfer window has been quiet overall, really, not just Arsenal, but overall. But the latest rumors include Ivan Perisic, Christopher Nkunku. The Dennis Suarez thing is still, seems to be off, but it's still being talked about. what I'm not hearing about is any defenders at all.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mehdi Benatia from Juventus, is admittedly not the long-term solution, is off to a team in Qatar. Gary Cahill's still floating around, I suppose. But my question is the same one that the girls always ask to Andy in college, which is, where is the D?
Yeah. Where is the D?
And Emery apparently today says that no defenders are coming in, but yeah, people want to know. Andy, you have some thoughts on Perisic?
I do. If we're gonna sign him, I'm all for it, because as Kev said earlier in the pod, we don't have enough creative midfielders. I don't know why the Arsenal fan base consistently bash transfer rumors because of a player's age or whatever. If we're told he's too old, he's 29, Mike. If he gives us 2 or 3 good seasons and he can create for us and help us win today, that's what I care about. I don't care about his resale value in 3 years. I don't care if you take care of your body, like we saw with Sagna, Clichy, so many ex-Arsenal players who were told at the age of 30 that they weren't going to be able to continue playing at top level, and they go on and win trophies elsewhere. If he can come in and help us secure top 4 now or better and a trophy, I'll take him. Because we've got Iwobi, we've got Reece Nelson, we've got Smith Rowe, all young wingers who are going to be chomping at the bit to push for first-team football. They may not be ready right now, but they could be ready in a season or 2. And who cares if we buy a player that if we can afford him, buy him. And then if he ends his career with Arsenal, good for him. But
he's in his prime now.
Yeah, exactly. Buy him now and get him now. We can't afford to go out and buy the young wingers who are going for 40 million. We've got those young wingers now. Yeah, we need someone who can help us secure top 4.
There are people, and I've ventured into this, that are arguing just about the logic and the finances of it. There are also people who are saying they've been watching Perisic and he's on the decline, which is another story altogether.
I'll tell you this: one of my best friends is from Italy, and he's an Inter Milan fan. And I text him saying, "What's good? Like, is he decent?" And he said, "I'll be really upset if he leaves our club." And I take his word more than anyone else because I've known him for 20 years. So if he's saying, hey, this player is going to improve your squad, and he's the one, Mike, we podcasted a while back. I asked him about Torreira when we signed him, and he said he's a poor man's Conte. He's ridiculously good. And so he knows his football. He's Italian. He studies that league. And so all I know is that if he's saying that he's a good player, then if he can help us win now, and as Kev just said, he's in his prime, we got to get someone who can help us win today. I don't care about 3 years from now.
So Kev, what do you think about that rumor and about the fact that Emery's, flat coming out and saying, I don't think we're picking up any defenders?
Any defenders? Yeah, I think Emery has defenders in his mind who he wants, but that's not going to happen until the summer. Obviously, Koscielny, we're not sure how long that's going to be. I think Socrates is the end of February, so I think what he's going to do is going to just roll the dice, I think, and try and patch people up and play. I like Perisic, I really do. I think Perisic is an upgrade, and he's one of them players who the fans have been crying out for, a wide player. With speed, but one thing he does do, he's a tremendous worker. He works up and down both sides, and he can create as well.
I think a 1-year-old baby from like Croatia or that area in Europe is tougher than most of our players. You're just automatically tough when you're from that area, I think.
Yeah, he's
not to generalize, but if you're Croatian, you've got to have that dirty work factor in you, I think.
Yeah, he's physical as well. He's a big guy. He's strong. He's quick. He knows where the goal is, and he's direct. And I believe he's an upgrade on what we've got in that area as it is now. And I think he will be a really welcome addition, because he's someone who could really stretch the pitch away from Aubameyang and Lacazette. He really can. So I'd like to see him come in, but I'd also like to see a defender. I know some of the fan base was moaning about Gary Cahill, etc. But we are down to the bare bones, aren't we?
I would take him in a heartbeat.
Bare bones. In a heartbeat, I'd take him.
Yeah.
He's going to be still pretty fresh because he hasn't really played much this season. So I'm not sure what's gone on there. He's won the Premier League a few times. He's a Champions League winner, and
if we're
why
looking for
not?
patches, then he's fine. If this is our plan for the future, that's a different story. But
It's
but
not our
that's
plan.
not.
It's a short-term one, just to see us through. I think that would be good business.
And the thing of it is, Mike, is we've got Mavropanos coming back, but we're going to have to rush him back into the first team squad, which would maybe create a risk of injury again. And so, as Kev said, if Gary Cahill is just sitting waiting, why not? The question is can we get him?
Well, at this point, who knows? I mean, but it doesn't seem to be anything that the powers to be are considering. So, and that kind of dovetails into a question from FC Ebrau. Says gutted for Hector. We got Maitland-Niles, Lichtsteiner, Jenko, and even Mustafi that can start at right back. I want Niles to do well, but I'd also give Jenko more chances. So 2 questions, Kevin, for you. First of all, who do you want to see get the bulk of the matches at right back? I mean, we've seen one since Hector went down, and it's obviously been Maitland-Niles. And then secondly, as for our center back situation right now, at this point, you just kind of assume Mustafi's going to get run out there every time we have a game, but who partners him? Would you rather see Dino Mavropanos if he's healthy? Would you rather see Nacho, Jenko, Xhaka out of position in those situations? Or would you give a look to, a plug with that go? Or Medley at this point.
The Spanish kid, right?
I actually he played one game for Arsenal. It was against Blackpool, and I saw it and I watched him, and he was not so bad. Now it was against Blackpool in the League Cup at home. But I mean, we're starting with the right back, and then would you go youth patchwork or or plug in at center back for the time being?
Well, look, what I would do is I don't think sometimes it's fair on Maitland-Niles. I think Maitland-Niles against Cardiff, Maitland-Niles he can get away with it, but against Manchester United, they will expose you, and I think at times he was getting a little bit exposed against Manchester United because it's not his natural position. His natural position is in the centre of the pitch, although he can do a job. I would put Cole Jenkinson there. I really would. I'd give him a go there because he's a natural right back. He's still an Arsenal player, still paid by the club, and he doesn't let anybody down when he played in the Europa League games. So why not put him in there? And
is there a happier person than Leroy Sané right now? By the way, just licking his chops for next weekend.
Look, and we know what our problems are. So whoever you put there, we're gonna be in a difficult situation. But
I would rather.
Sorry, go on.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say because Kev, I've been pulling on that Jenko string for a couple of weeks now. Mike, I have. Like, if he's an out and out right back, it's better to have him there than Maitland-Niles. And if you're Leroy Sané, like we all thought last season when Maitland-Niles was going up against Salah, Liverpool early in the season, he was going to get torn apart. He played well. But I would rather see players play in the like position and just see what they can do. And Jenko hasn't really stepped wrong. Granted the opposition he's played against have been few and far between. But I just think if you're gonna have a makeshift back four, have someone who's trained in that position for years and years, who wants to win for the club. I'll tell you something, Mike. Jenkinson would have not have cantered back in any of those counterattacks. He would have been as fast. Like maybe he can't run that fast, but he would have been
running at full speed, which would have been the same speed as the other two were running at half speed.
Yeah.
I've never heard the word canter, by the way. I guess a 3-beat gait of a horse or other quadruped between a trot and a gallop. That's fantastic. I'm gonna give that a bell ring. So for center back situation, Kevin, what do you mean?
Center back.
A few different ways you can go now. Ways
you can go. Obviously, we know Mavropanos has been out for a while, so I'm not too sure how healthy he actually is. But the fact of the matter is, Nacho Monreal can play there. Now, depending on who the opposition is, obviously Monreal could play there. If Mavropanos is fit, fair enough. Mavropanos could come in there. But the other Spanish lad, who you mentioned before, Mike.
Kind of.
Yeah, well,
P-Dog, let's call him.
Yeah, who played against Blackpool.
Yeah.
Why not give him a go? Why not put him in there and see how he does? Because we've got nothing to lose anymore. Because we are decimated at the back. So I would look at experience first in Monreal, sorry. I would look at experience first in Monreal. Then I would look at, obviously, the young hope in Mavropanos if he's fit. But if he's not fit and Monreal's not quite ready, I'd put the young Spanish lad in and give him a run alongside Mustafi. Definite.
Yeah, I mean that the downside to starting a guy like Medley or Plague is if they get torched, and I mean again we got a game against Manchester City coming up. If they get torched, A, what does it do to their confidence? B, and again, this shouldn't matter, but we know the world we live in. Are they, is Emery going to get absolutely blasted for giving up on the Premier League? Frankly, if we leak 3 goals with those guys there, or we leak 3 goals because we have Xhaka playing left back or Monreal, doing a job that he normally does okay when he covers center back, but he's getting older. I just don't think it matters, and I'd rather have these guys get game time. Maybe tomorrow more so than against Manchester City, but I'll go with the youth. I think they need. I'll play Monreal in his natural position at left back before Kolasinac at this point, and see one of the kids play in the middle next to Mustafi. That would be my preference, but. It's a no-win situation either way. I just tired of seeing people put out of position, or El Neni, for instance, put in there just because he's a more solid veteran. I'd rather have someone who actually plays week in and week out in that position, even if it's against different competition. So that's just me. Now, talk about the financial stuff. I've been wasting a lot of my time having arguments with people about this on Twitter, on Facebook. I just can't help it. But Kev, you brought it up earlier today, and I'm very glad to hear you say what you said about the fact that Kroenke could put 500 million of his own money in, and what people want him to put the money in isn't to buy an arcade or a new stadium. It's to buy players, and it just doesn't work that way because of the decisions that we've made in the past. I mean, it's just such a lazy narrative. It's also a lazy narrative. To blame him for that, and the fact that we've gotten ourselves in this position really is just kind of the ultimate devil's triangle. And yes, I know what that actually is. But we made horrible financial decisions, like overpaying transfer fees on some certain players. I won't name them. I was going to name them, but new contracts for certain players that might be a little high. Andy, did you know how much Ozil makes on his contract?
I do. I've been reminded of it every day. If you go on the internet, just everywhere.
Letting Jack Wilshere's and Ramsey's contracts run down. I mean, all these things happen just at a time where we stop getting Champions League bonus money for 2 years running and possibly more, and just at a time where commercial revenues have been flat because we've been tied into contracts, and even declining because we're having to pay penalties or refund some of that money back to teams when we don't, or to companies when we don't make the Champions League. So, this combination of events with the way that financial fair play works, that's why we're in the position in January where we can't really take on any more permanent wages. I think Emery made a huge mistake, unless it was, I get the feeling you were implying it was a little tactical the way he said it, because to say we don't have money to buy players is one thing. To say that we're kind of frozen by the rules to be able to buy players is another. And it gave off the impression that we were crying poor with 250 million pounds in the bank. And that exploded. You think Emery kind of did that on purpose to kind of put his foot down?
Yeah, I do. I think because, remember, everything's going to really, the whole fan base will turn around and look at Emery and say, okay, what are you going to do? Just like we are now talking about our defensive frailties. and we need the defender, etc., etc. But if he doesn't set the record straight, most of the fan base will look at him and blame him. So remember, for years this has been covered up. All the wrongdoings and the mismanagement of the transfer policy, etc. Whether it's players coming in, players going out for nothing, players not being offered contracts until it's too late, and other players running down their contracts, it has been mismanaged.
Yeah, it has.
Emery inherited it, and what he's doing, he's actually saying, "Okay, look, I've got to let you know what kind of hand I've been dealt here, because he can't. It's not fair if he takes the blame for what's gone on in the past, and it's no point people burying their head in the sand. The bottom line of it is the transfer policy at Arsenal has been mismanaged. It's that simple. That's why we are in a club like Arsenal cannot go out and spend 15, 16 million on a Denis Suarez from Barcelona, and Bournemouth can go out and spend money. This is where we are at.
Yeah. And the blame game, again, some of it wrongly goes to Emery. A lot of it, in my opinion, wrongly goes to Kroenke, whose biggest, his sin is being an absentee manager or owner, not having any kind of connection to the team. It isn't financial, and has nothing to do with the Rams, which bugs me to high heaven. But so to me, it's about what happens this summer. So Saturday night, I had a glass of wine or two. I usually stop after two. And
then I did two bottles.
Well, yeah, my glasses. I didn't tell you how big the glass was.
Yeah.
And then I do what everyone does after a couple of drinks, which is I start working up a spreadsheet of wages and commercial revenues and projections and stuff. And I get jealous of the brilliance that comes from this guy Swiss Ramble. If you follow him on Twitter, his threads of like 20 to 25 posts break down finances. I mean, it's not for everybody, but it's fascinating. And I've been getting jealous of him. So now I want to be known as Jewish Ramble. And what I found, basically I took all the wages from publicized wage sources that tend to be pretty accurate, put them all together, amortize the transfer fees and all that. And basically, to sum it up, in the summer, if we don't re-sign and extend Jenko or Nacho or Welbeck or Lichtsteiner, Ramsey and Czech we already know about, and we don't sell anybody else, the combination between the commercial revenue deals that we have coming up with Emirates and Adidas, the wages dropping off, the transfer fees for people like Welbeck and Czech that finally drop off the books, we should have between 70 or 80 million pounds in wage bill room to spend this summer. Mm-hmm. And there's a few caveats to that. That is not like a war chest. It's not at 80 million, this war chest comment where you just basically think of it in the terms of transfer fees. Like we can sign 240 million players or an 80 million player. That's not what it means.
Yeah.
It's the wage bill from what I've learned, and I haven't always known this. I've just researched this a lot lately. It's the total of annual wages paid to your players and an annual piece of the transfer fee that you paid for the player. So if you sign a guy on a 5-year contract, let's use Virgil van Dijk as an example. If you pay $75 million to sign him for a 5-year contract, mm-hmm. that's 15 mil against the wage bill each year. If you put him on $180K a week, that on a wage packet, of that size, then that's another 10 million against the wage bill. So that player adds 25 million to the wage bill for each of the next 25 years.
Yeah.
So it's not just it's an 80 million or it's a 70 million pound purchase, but it's 25 million a year for the next 5 years on the wage bill. And because financial fair play, if you believe in it, and you believe it exists and it's enforced for everybody other than Man City, then we would have room under financial fair play with 70 to 80 million pounds to add 3 Van Dijk type of deals to our lineup. And that's even if we don't ship out Mesut Ozil or sell any other players who, we may want to be looking at selling. So, it's actually a considerable amount of money to be able to be added over the summer, whereas we literally do not have any of that available now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that buying 3 Van Dijk type players is going to happen, or it should happen, because we get a big bump in our commercial revenues this summer, and it gives us more buying power. But then they're going to be flat again for the next few years, and there's really only one way to bump up that revenue that allows us to sign more players, and that's getting back into the Champions League.
Yeah.
But Mike, if sorry to interrupt, because you say
please,
Man City, you believe it or not, they only have 3 players that are over 200,000 on their wage bill. Sergio Aguero, Kevin De Bruyne is number 1 at 350, Aguero's 250, and David Silva's 220.
No, I know that.
Yaya Toure was 220, but but it's the management, but they've been managing that so well. They've got that team in place that have looked at the wage packet, and I think and Kev, maybe I'm wrong here, but I know over in U.S. sports, if you look at the New England Patriots, part of the reason they can be so successful is because they'll go to players and say, hey, we can't pay you the 100,000 pounds a week that you want, but we could pay you 80, and we can give you championship runs. We can give you trophies. And I feel like a lot of players may look at that and go, well, if I'm guaranteed to play in these big championship matches every season, I'll take that small wage cut. That's not going to affect me that much. I'll still have a Range Rover to drive around. I'll also have a trophy to go with it. So they've just done a great job, Mike, I think, of being able to go to players and say, hey, we'll give you more on the back end, plus we're going to give you the opportunity to fight for trophies.
Well,
and I feel like
they're also not letting players go for free. And
exactly. They've just managed so well. And hopefully...
But here's the thing with that, Andy. One thing you got to remember with that, because that's my team. The best player on the team gives a hometown discount.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't take what he should be paid. He accepts that he's going to take less in order so there's more in the pot to pay other players. That's what he does. In football, unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that. Everyone's out to maximize their earning potential. So, the likes of Mesut Ozil, as opposed to getting, say, 350 or whatever he's getting, would he have taken 275? So the extra 75 could have bought another player. It doesn't really work like that in football, unfortunately.
Agents run amok.
Well, and that's the other part too, right? It's the agents, and that's why that's another part of football I don't understand, is why the clubs are paying the agents. It's so bizarre to me.
And I think it goes into that pot too. I mean, trust me, there's a lot I still have to learn about how the rules work, but I know a lot more now than I did a month or two ago. Thanks to people like Nate Smith and who we had on a couple weeks ago or last week. And Swiss Ramble, but
don't forget, Andy, if you're signing a player, the agent's fee tends to come out of the player's package.
So are you saying the player will pay that fee?
No. It comes out the player's package. So let's put it this way: if let's say that, for argument's sake, let's look at a round figure. The player's package is £50 million, and his wages and all his bonuses, etc., comes up to 45 million. The 5 million, he signed a 5-year deal. His agent will get £1 million a year. So that's why his package is 50 million.
Well, that's why that's how it's traditionally worked, and certainly here in the States, the agents get 3% or 10%, whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's how it will work.
I thought it was different. I thought it was actually, these slime bags would get involved. I forget what the guy's name is, but that represent Mino Raiola, and I don't know that he's a slime bag. I'm just saying, they get involved and things get really expensive and they work out their own deals, is what I thought. But I mean, certainly you would know more than I would.
No, you can do that, but that is still all part of the package.
Okay.
You see, that is still all part of the package, because everything must be documented. Now, it's just like, okay, Mike, you're an agent and you've got a world star who Arsenal want to sign. They've got to go through you to sign him, and he's leaving everything to you. You say, look, this is the deal. Your fee is £10 million.
Yeah, I'm gonna want somebody looking after my package.
Yeah, your fee is £10 million, and your player wants 70 million over 4 years. Now, if the club don't want to do it, fine, no problem, because they know that other clubs will do it. So the club have a decision to make. It's either they do it or not.
Yeah.
And,
well, and it's just
when the club do it, this is what drives me mad. When the club do it, you can't then do it and then say, "Oh, it's the agents are terrible." No, the agents aren't terrible. The agents are the ones who are looking after the best interests of the player. Hence, why Ramsey's leaving.
Yeah, well, that we could get into a whole conversation there, but we won't. I could also spend all day just talking about packages, but my point is, if we spend this summer of all summers, dithering around watching, Premier League experienced, talented, in their prime players. I mean, the Virgil van Dijks, the Harry Maguires of the world, who might be inflated, but you plug them into your team and you will instantly become better. If we just spend the summer waffling on those players, and then kind of add a couple of speculative cheapo players in the end at the end of July when they're already in the States, doing their tour, then it's time to go absolutely mental about the ambition of ownership and management of the club, in my opinion. But right now, it's not about ambition to me. It's about being handcuffed by poor decisions and poor outcomes, mostly made by people who aren't here anymore. And I'm willing to be patient-ish for that all to just finally clear out, to bottom out on the bad decisions, and then start looking at the impact of the new decisions, which hopefully won't be like that.
Mike, if you look at Unai Emery being appointed as our manager, if it's true that he came in with this dossier on players and system and what he would do with each person, he knew what he was taking over. I think if he had met with the Cronkies and Raul and everyone else, he was told then, here's where your handcuffs are going to be for a season or two, and then we can open it up. And then once he takes over the role, he can see where wage structure is and all that. He's a smart enough guy and an analytical enough guy where I can't believe this is all brand new to him. And to your point earlier, this summer, he's going to have a wealth of money to throw at targets that fit his system and his scheme. He knows who they are. And I think Kev even said earlier, he's identified who he wants. Just when can we get them? So if it's a matter of us waiting until the summer for him to nab the 4 or 5 players and we push out the players we don't want, then fine. But it's this narrative right now on Arsenal Twitter and Arsenal social media is everything is doom and gloom right now, and people don't see the larger picture. Like you had said, everyone keeps pointing at this stadium in LA. Arsenal have nothing to do with that except for the equity piece, right? That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, but he's not taking, to everyone's knowledge, he's not taking money
No.
to do that.
But the only point is that Arsenal, if the stadium were to collapse tomorrow, he could sell off Arsenal and he could pay the loan back to the bank. That's all it is, right? It doesn't affect us at all.
Every time, if you go on Twitter and see another comment that says that Kroenke's putting up $1.6 billion into the Rams and he won't put a single pound sterling into Arsenal. If you see that, Kevin, just know that somewhere 4,000 miles away, I am in the fetal position, kicking and screaming on the floor. I can't tell you.
It winds you up, huh?
Stupid that concept is. It's real estate. You want a $2 billion, arcade outside the North Bank? Fine, but that's not going to put a better team on the pitch for us.
No, and I just think that to sum up my point, I think that we are in a spot right now where rush signing people is just an idiotic thing, and I like the fact that we are trying to go out and loan these players with optional fees to buy, to see what kind of business they can do for us on the pitch. And if Perisic comes in and he has an optional clause and he absolutely crushes the Premier League and he fits in well, then go for it. Purchase him.
Yeah, and I just don't think Inter's willing to do that deal.
No, I don't think so either. But as Kev said, he's the type of player who can help us win today, and that's what we need to be looking at. And if Unai has identified the 2 or 3 center backs that he wants in the summer, and we can't get them now, then I'm okay sitting back waiting for those players. Because I would, I'd love to bring in Cahill if he's a 6-month option, but I would hate for us to spend $20 million on a player to bring him in and then have him turn out to be a bag of shit and just not good enough for us,
Yeah. Speaking of bags of shit, Pochettino's press conference on Sunday, after crashing out of 2 cups in 4 days. I mean, obviously you've read it. He said, trophies only build your ego. The most important thing for Tottenham right now is to always be in top 4. What a joker this guy. I mean, I didn't like when Arsene Wenger said it either. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to.
But why isn't he
lionize Arsene Wenger now and say,
why isn't he getting the brash that Arsene got back when he used to say that?
That's the
thing. But you got to understand. There's levels to this, guys. Arsenal have won titles. Arsenal have been in the Champions League for 20 years, and all of a sudden now, Tottenham are tasting that now. So Tottenham haven't won trophies. The level that Tottenham are at, they're just starting to qualify for Champions League. So winning trophies, of course it brings an ego, because you have to have that ego to win. Mm-hmm. But they're not at that level yet, you see. The moment, if they ever win on to win, which we hope they don't, then you will see that club change and that mentality change. But the person who never wins anything, it's easy for him to say, "Oh, it's not about winning trophies." The moment you taste it, it's different.
Do you have any doubt that if they did go on to win the FA Cup this year or any year, he'd basically be lauding the fact that the team is finally winning? And I mean, it just obviously people are going to, anybody in a position of management or politics or anything is gonna phrase things in a way that makes them look better, but he gets away with it, and it's just maddening.
Yeah, but you know what, Mike? I think he's played smart, because he knows his hands are tied. He knows he doesn't really want the pressure of having to go and win trophies. Because when you think about it, he's hamstrung. They've not even moved into their new stadium yet.
Yeah. No, he's not a dumb guy. He's just
he's had no money. He couldn't sign anybody in the summer. It's only a few days to go of this January window, and no one's coming in. So he has to kind of dampen down what the fans, because the fans they're ready to win. I've got friends who are Tottenham fans. They're ready to win something, but he isn't. Or he doesn't want to have that impression that they're going to win stuff, because that makes his job harder.
Yeah, well, I think he's got a tough job ahead of him for the next couple of months, I hope.
He has.
One more point, and then we'll move on to user questions before we finish up. Lately, I've been scouting a new striker. Speaking of transfer window, he plays in the Championship, scored 2 goals in an FA Cup loss for Stoke a couple weeks ago against Shrewsbury. Mm-hmm. What was the guy's name again? I don't remember. There were some well-taken goals, though.
Oh, jeez, you're funny, Mike. You're funny.
How's it going for him there? Like, what's the scoop on that? Is he getting sage advice from the consummate professionals like Shawcross, Charlie Adam, and Berahino?
Yeah, well, as far as I know, he's enjoying life under his 4th manager in 18 months.
Oh, boy.
It's a lot for a youngster. Let's be honest. To be honest, your 4th manager, but the new manager Nathan Jones has come in, and he seems he's given him a chance, and he seems to be liking life under his new manager. So, look, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad at Stoke right now, because the inconsistency that they have isn't quite there. So I'm sure the manager again is going to have to, get his big brush out, and he's going to have to brush people out the door, and he's going to have to bring new blood in. And
that poses a good opportunity, though, for a young player who has the desire.
Of course, definitely. He's happy there. He's getting a chance, and that's all he wants. He wants a chance to be able to play. So,
well, we're keeping our eyes on him, because we're excited for his successes, and we know that you are a proud papa.
Yeah.
By the way, his goals well taken. His knee slide after the first goal, about a 6 out of 10, though. I mean, he popped up from it nicely, but it wasn't really long enough to do it for me.
Yeah.
Do you guys work on that when he comes home, like for for visits?
Nah.
On your knee slide, your celebration.
I'll leave him to it. Mike.
All right, perfect. All right, so we got a handful of questions here. We're gonna try to cruise through these pretty quickly, but they are good questions. Starting from Mike Hernandez. We probably have covered / kind of answered this a little bit already, but would it be best to keep either Jenko or Lichtsteiner just on their expiring contracts for another year, despite their wage / age this summer, considering the low transfer budgets? And I think other positions need more help. And Bellerin would. Oh, he goes on to say, Bellerin would be the only natural right back at the club for a whole season if we let both of them go. I don't know that we have that low of a transfer budget over the summer, but would you consider renewing either one of them, or do we need to start fresh at right back?
If I had the chance, if it was me, I would go and get another right back. I think Lichtsteiner, that getting him on a free was fine at the start, but it hasn't quite worked out. Jenkinson's been there a long time, and although he could fill in, we need somebody to really push Bellerin now. Strong, defensive, and tough. I think we need that type of player to come in. So I would make the change.
And he more than likely won't be ready to start the season. And with his last major injury, he came back quite a few steps slower for a while, and only recently gained it back. So I think we need to really consider the right back position, along with a lot of other ones. Andy, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think whoever comes in is going to be second fiddle to Bellerin, but you need a player who can come in that when they're in the starting lineup and you see them go up against the Sané, you think, oh, I'm comfortable with them. They're going to be fine. And I don't see that with the other two players at this point. So yeah,
Lichtsteiner, I liked the signing because of again, I wanted to sign some dicks, some people that would teach our team how to be tough, and I'd like to think that's the impact he's had. But his on the pitch impact was not what I had hoped it would be. That's for sure.
Yeah.
From Fredo in New Orleans, as a striker, what's the best way to get a striker that's in a slump out of it and scoring again? And I thought about going to Andy for this question.
I was about to say, I'm assuming this one's for me, right?
but wait, Kev, I think he might have been meaning for you to take that. So that's the first question he has. So what
the best way to get
if you had ever gotten into a slump, which I know you didn't, what would be the best way of getting out?
Listen, you get in a slump. The best way to get out of a slump is to keep playing and keep creating the chances, because that's the only way you're going to get out of it, is by playing and putting one in the net. That's the only way. And you might miss, but as long as you're getting chances, you've got a great chance of getting out of that slump. But if you're not creating much, then that slump's going to go on for a long time. And it feels longer than it actually is.
Yeah, and if you play alongside Aubameyang and he's on a brace and he gets a penalty, then he hands the penalty to you, and then you break out of your slump.
That's right.
That happens also.
Good teammates. You need good teammates with you. That's for sure.
And the second question, and I think I could answer this question, but we'll go to you for your feedback too. Who was more stylish out on the town, you or Ian Wright? Now, Kev is always dapper AF. Had the color-coordinated blue suit up at Everton. His fashion game is strong. I mean, even stronger, Andy, than mine, if you can believe that.
Oh, really?
But what would you say? Because Ian Wright's no slouch either when it comes to
he's no slouch, but it's me all day long.
Nice. I expected a little bit more diplomacy there. I'm actually happy to see you take that.
No, definitely me. Definitely.
Okay. From Vishad, he's got a trio of questions. So we'll rapid fire. What would be more satisfying, having Socrates kicking Sanchez off the park, or Jesse Lingard breaking his legs while doing the moonwalk on our pitch? Andy, we'll go to you for that, because you're more likely to be rude than Kevin is.
I don't understand the hoopla around Lingard doing the moonwalk. I don't care. It's what he does. It's the expectation of him scoring and doing a stupid dance. So I would rather see Sanchez, because that smirk when he scored the goal, I just wanted to reach through my TV and smash his face.
It was almost like, I'm not going to celebrate. Wait, maybe a little bit. Wait, yeah, I'm going to celebrate.
But
Like,
you know what though? Like, remember when Welbeck scored in the FA Cup a couple seasons ago against United? Like,
yeah,
he didn't even hesitate. He celebrated because, and Kev, I mean, you've been in this scenario, right? Like playing for multiple teams, and maybe you score against the. Like, in my opinion, if I play and I'm employed by that club, I want to score a goal and I want to celebrate it. I don't care who it's against. You know, unless you're an absolute like. I just don't get it. So I'm saying go all out and celebrate.
I should know this, but did you score against Arsenal for Everton?
Yeah.
And what did you do?
Well, I'll celebrate a little bit, but no. It's actually it was the first game. The first game I played against Arsenal. When I left, I went to Nottingham Forest. It was my first goal for Nottingham Forest. It was at Highbury.
Oh, that's right.
And I didn't celebrate at all. That was only going to be the only time. although I don't rub it in when I scored for Everton against Arsenal. I don't rub it in, but I acknowledge that I scored. Definitely, I'm not going to not acknowledge that I scored because it was the winner at the time. So, I was happy. But the first time, no, it was I supported the club all my life, so I couldn't do it. So.
By the way, did you see
Mike,
my celebration when I imitated your goal on the Highbury pit? Did you ever see that video of me and Lee?
Yes,
walking around Highbury, and I reenacted your first goal for Arsenal against Forest.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was well taken, wasn't it?
Oh, you took it well, Mike.
I bounced off some bushes and ran out of energy right before I even finished the goal.
I mean, here's the thing, Mike. If you're going to score against your former club, do the Welbeck where you celebrate it with your teammates. You're excited you scored. We're not asking you to be run down the pitch throwing your shirt off in front of the away support.
The Adebayor, you mean?
Yeah, like the Adebayor, right? So it's like there's but the Lingard thing I just don't understand. Like, when he scores, he's got a stupid dance. It's what he does.
Yeah.
So I don't know why people were so mad about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a thing to argue about.
He's got no allegiance to Arsenal.
No.
And when he scores, if you're good enough to score, celebrate it.
Yeah.
I just don't get some people.
I don't think anybody's upset with him for celebrating. I just think they wanted him to break his legs while he was doing it. So second question is how does Ole Gunnar Solskjaer make United a better team in weeks, yet Emery has made us worse in 6 months? That's his question, Vishad. I'll take this one. First, I don't believe that he's made us worse in 6 months. I just don't know that he's necessarily improved us while handcuffed. Secondly, as far as United is concerned, it's the Mourinho effect. Solskjaer hasn't made them better. He just stopped making them worse. So
and look at the amount. Yeah, look at the amount of money that Mourinho spent on that team. And as I pointed out before, look at the substitutions that he brought on. Look at how good Luke Shaw has been since Mourinho has been removed from the picture. United are a terrifying team under good management. And I don't know if they'll keep Solskjaer. I'm assuming Pochettino is the manager that goes there. And I'll tell you what, Mike, if that team gets a manager like Poch or another good manager, they're dangerous.
Oh, they're
a good squad.
It's going to be Manchester 1 and 2 probably for the next 5 years.
But that team it's not as he made them better. You're right. He just stopped making them bad.
That's what I said. Yeah, it's the Mourinho effect, and the same thing happened when Conte came into Chelsea. All you had to do in those situations is take a world-class team and stop screwing them up, and that was not what Emery's job has been so far. So, third question from Vishad. I'm going to hold off to make sure that we have time for the other two. From Sadain Syed, first time I recall seeing a question from him. Thank you for doing that. Are defenders expected to provide assists every week? I think he assumes the question is no. The answer is no, because he says, then why is Ozil required to track back, lunge into tackles, and run his ass off? Andy.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think we've probably covered the Ozil topic enough. But
Well, look. Can I just say a little bit about that?
yeah,
Because of the position where Mesut Ozil will play, is in the engine room, and when you're in the engine room, there's times where you have to track runners. There's sometimes you just can't get away with it. You have to track the runners because you might be getting counterattacked and you're going to be exposed. So you have to track the run. That's why he's expected. I don't think he's expected to crash into tackles. I don't think that at all. But there's times where Mesut Ozil has to do some dirty work and track runners back into his own, sometimes into his own box. And if he can't do that, then and that player then goes and scores, everybody turns around and looks at Mesut Ozil and thinks, we're here doing the dirty work and you're not doing the dirty work. So it's just sometimes he has to do it, and it doesn't look like he wants to do it. That's the issue at times.
Yeah, it is. But there are those who just basically say, he should be absolved of that and just let him do his thing.
We're not good enough to have luxuries.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. From Ryan Cost, what's the biggest? This is an interesting question, and I want your feedback on it, Kev. What is the biggest problem you see with our fan base? How do we become more united? And I think he means like more together, not more like Manchester United.
Yeah.
We've talked about this at the pub. We've experienced our fan base's diabolicalness sometimes when it comes to anything on Twitter. But I mean, is there a way out of this other than winning, which we don't really control?
Yeah, winning kills all. We'll never forget that. Winning cures everything. The fan base will get together when they start seeing the team get more consistent. Because if you notice, the team's performance is like a roller coaster. We don't know what we're going to get from week to week to week. Against Chelsea, I thought Arsenal was sensational against Chelsea. And then against Manchester United, it started off okay, and then it fell flat, in a sense. And Manchester United took us apart, really, at the end of the day, 3-1. So the fan base then always go back to, look, it's our defence, it's our defence, it's our defence. When things like that don't get rectified, it leaves everything open for the fan base to battle each other because nothing's being corrected. It's just like having a stone in your shoe. You walking around with a stone in your shoe, you never take it out, and then why would you complain that that your foot's hurting you? What you've got to do, you've got to take the shoe off, take the stone out, and then you'll be okay. But we constantly walk around with that stone in our shoe. But again, the manager's handcuffed. He can't do what he wants to do. So we have to be a little bit more patient. And we're going to suffer a little bit more pain this season. We will. That you could see it. But it's in the summer where we're going to find out how serious this ownership and this board are with the manager. Because that's going to tell us everything in the summer.
Couldn't agree more. And we should know soon in the summer too. It shouldn't be July where we're still figuring this out, and the angst will rise through the summer if that ends up being what happens. Speaking of being handcuffed, I think I speak for Andy when I say if we could be handcuffed to you, it would be just fine. But seeing as we're not, we're going to need to let you go. I just want to point out a couple quick things about the podcast, and then thank you, Kevin. You could subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're just watching the audio discussion. Most of our podcasts will be on video. We'll keep you posted on Twitter when we're going live. There's a subscribe link that you should be seeing shortly on the upper right hand of your screen. And if you're listening on iTunes or somewhere else, you can either watch on YouTube or keep doing what you're doing. But thanks for the listening. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that we experienced, but this hour and 20 minutes has flown by. It's been such an enjoyable conversation.
I can't even believe the time's gone so quick, honestly.
Do you have another 2 hours? I mean, I got some backup stuff.
You got some backup stuff, yeah? All right, no problem. Listen, it's a pleasure, Mike, Andy. Really
Thank you.
Pleasure. just anytime, just ask me, and if I'm free, you know, I'll come on and join you guys.
Thanks, Kev.
Really
You're
appreciate
more than
it.
welcome.
Cheers to you, and good luck to your family, and hopefully Arsenal get back on track with a win on Tuesday, and that's it for us. Come on, you Gooners.
Come on, you Gunners.